My wife cheated on me with my own brother right on my birthday. It's funny how one moment can change your entire life. 1 minute, you're celebrating your birthday, surrounded by friends and family, thinking everything is perfect. The next, your world is turned upside down, and everything you thought you knew about the people closest to you is shattered. That's how my 34th birthday went. 1 minute, I was enjoying the celebration. The next, I was standing in the doorway of my own bedroom, witnessing a betrayal I could never have imagined. The day started off like any other birthday. I woke up to the sound of my wife, Emily, wishing me a happy birthday. She handed me a cup of coffee and kissed me on the cheek, her usual cheerful self. We were both excited for the party we'd been planning for weeks. It was going to be a low-key affair, friends, family, good food, and drinks, but I was looking forward to it. Emily had always been the social butterfly, and I loved seeing her interact with our friends. My brother, Matt, was coming too, and I was excited to catch up with him. We hadn't hung out much lately. The morning was spent preparing for the party. Emily was busy in the kitchen, making sure everything was perfect, while I ran errands and set up the decorations. We were both in high spirits, excited to celebrate. By the time the guests started arriving in the evening, everything seemed flawless. The music was perfect, the food was delicious, and the drinks were flowing. Matt showed up a little late, as usual. He was my younger brother, just 2 years younger than me, and we'd always been close. Growing up, we were inseparable, always getting into trouble together, sharing everything. He'd been a big part of my life, and I never imagined anything could come between us. But that night, everything changed. Emily was in her element, flitting from group to group, making everyone feel welcome. I was in the middle of a conversation with some friends when I noticed something strange. Matt and Emily kept exchanging glances, lingering a little too long when they spoke to each other. I brushed it off at first, telling myself I was just overthinking it. It was my birthday after all, but as the night went on, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. At around 10:30 p.m., the party was in full swing. People were dancing, laughing, and enjoying themselves, but I couldn't focus. The nagging feeling that something wasn't right wouldn't go away. I excused myself and went upstairs to check on the food I had prepared earlier. As I walked down the hallway, I heard laughter coming from our bedroom. I thought it was just Emily and Matt talking, but something in my gut told me to stop. I stood at the door for a few seconds, unsure whether I should walk in or turn back. Then I heard it, the sound of kissing. My heart stopped. I pushed the door open, and what I saw made my blood run cold. There they were, my wife and my brother, tangled in the sheets, kissing each other like they were the only two people in the world. My stomach dropped, and I felt like I couldn't breathe. My mind raced, but I couldn't process what I was seeing. My wife, the woman I had been married to for 5 years, the woman I trusted with everything, was in bed with my brother. The betrayal was too much to comprehend. I stood there, frozen in shock, watching the scene unfold in front of me. I wanted to scream, to say something, but I couldn't. I just couldn't move. The anger, the hurt, the disbelief, everything hit me at once like a punch to the gut. My world, my perfect little life, was crumbling right in front of my eyes. They didn't notice me standing there at first, and for a brief moment, I thought about turning around and walking away. But I couldn't. I had to face this. I had to understand what was happening, even if it destroyed me. When they finally looked up, the look on their faces was one of panic and guilt. Emily quickly pulled away from Matt, her face going pale. Matt looked like he was trying to figure out what to say, but nothing came out. I didn't know what to say either. What could I say? The words stuck in my throat, and all I could do was stand there, staring at them, trying to process the pain. Why? Was all I could manage to say. Emily opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came out. She looked at Matt, then back at me, her eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry, I didn't mean for this to happen, she finally said, but her words didn't make sense. How could she not mean for it to happen? They were in my bed, in my house on my birthday. I trusted you, I said, my voice breaking. Both of you. Matt looked ashamed, his eyes downcast. I didn't mean to hurt you, man, he said quietly, but his words felt hollow. How could he not have known that what they were doing would hurt me? How could he have done this to me? I wanted to ask a million questions, but they all seemed irrelevant now. Nothing would change what I had just seen. The betrayal was too deep. The hurt was too much. My wife and my brother, the two people I loved and trusted most, had just ripped my heart out, and there was nothing I could do about it. I don't remember how I got out of the room. The next thing I knew, I was sitting in the living room, staring blankly at the floor. I couldn't wrap my head around what had just happened. My whole life felt like it had been turned upside down, and I didn't know how to move forward from this. The party continued downstairs, oblivious to the destruction unfolding upstairs. My friends and family were still laughing, still dancing, while I was left to pick up the pieces of my broken heart. I had no idea what to do next. How could I confront Emily? How could I look Matt in the eye again? How could I ever trust either of them? That night, I learned more about the people closest to me than I ever wanted to know. And as I sat there, alone in my own house, I realized that nothing would ever be the same again. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at the floor, trying to piece together what had just happened. My head was pounding. My thoughts were a whirlwind of confusion and anger. I wanted to scream, to cry, to do anything to release the pressure building inside me, but I couldn't bring myself to move. I just sat there, paralyzed by the weight of the betrayal. The party continued downstairs, and I could hear the muffled laughter and music coming from below. It felt like a cruel joke. How could they all be so unaware of what had just transpired in my own home? How could they all be having fun, oblivious to the fact that my world had just come crashing down? A few minutes later, Emily appeared in the doorway, her face pale, eyes swollen from crying. She looked at me with a mixture of guilt and desperation. She was still in her party dress, her hair perfectly styled, but it felt like a million miles away from the woman I had married. The woman I thought I knew. "Please, can we talk?" she asked, her voice trembling. I looked at her, but I couldn't speak. What was there to say? What could I possibly say to her? She had destroyed everything we had built together, and now she wanted to talk? To explain? There was no explanation that could make sense of what had just happened. "Why?" I finally managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. "How could you do this to me? How could you do this to us? On my birthday? With him?" Emily flinched at the mention of Matt's name, her eyes darting to the door as if she expected him to appear at any moment. I could feel the weight of the betrayal crushing me. She was my wife, the woman I had trusted more than anyone in the world. And Matt, he was my brother, the one person who was supposed to have my back, no matter what. "I never meant for this to happen," Emily said softly, her voice barely audible. It just happened. I don't know how to explain it. It was a mistake, a huge mistake. A mistake. I repeated, my voice rising with disbelief. "How is this a mistake? You didn't just kiss him, Emily. You were in my bed. You were with him. This wasn't some slip-up. This wasn't a mistake." She broke down, tears streaming down her face as she dropped to her knees in front of me. "I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. It just happened. I don't even know what I was thinking." I stood up abruptly, stepping away from her. I couldn't look at her anymore. I couldn't listen to her apologize when everything was already ruined. Her words felt empty, meaningless. How could she be sorry when she had so casually destroyed everything we had? "How long?" I asked, my voice hoarse, barely able to keep it together. "How long has this been going on?" Emily hesitated, unable to look me in the eye. I felt my chest tighten. I didn't want to hear it, but I needed to know. I needed to understand the extent of this betrayal. "A few months," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "It started after you started working late. We got closer. I never meant for it to go this far, but it did." I staggered back, the words hitting me like a physical blow. "A few months?" This wasn't just a one-time mistake. This had been going on for months. My mind raced, trying to process what she was saying, but I couldn't. It was like a bad dream, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't wake up from it. "And Matt?" I asked, my voice filled with a mix of anger and disbelief. "You slept with my brother? How could you do that?" "I don't know," she sobbed. "It wasn't planned. It just happened. We were drunk one night, and it just happened. I didn't mean for it to go this far, I swear." I turned away from her, my hands shaking. I couldn't look at her anymore. I couldn't listen to her words. It was too much to bear. "That's it," I said, my voice trembling with anger. "You didn't mean for it to happen? That's your excuse? You don't just fall into bed with someone, Emily. It doesn't work like that." She stood up slowly, her face twisted in agony. I know it was wrong. I don't expect you to forgive me. I'm so sorry." I let out a bitter laugh, the sound hollow and painful. "Sorry? You think sorry is enough? You think I can fix this?" She looked at me with pleading eyes, but I couldn't bring myself to feel anything for her. All I felt was pain, betrayal, a crushing weight of hurt and disappointment that I couldn't escape. A few moments of silence passed, and then, without a word, I turned and walked out of the room. I didn't want to hear any more. I didn't want to talk. I needed to get away from her, from everything. I needed air. I needed space. I grabbed my jacket from the hallway, stepping out into the cool night air. The party was still going on downstairs, but I didn't care. The laughter, the music, the chatter, It all felt so distant, so irrelevant. I couldn't be a part of it anymore. I couldn't pretend like everything was okay when my entire life had just been shattered. I walked down the street, my mind a whirlwind of emotions. I didn't know where I was going or what I was supposed to do. All I knew was that I couldn't stay in that house, not after what had just happened, not after what I had seen. As I walked, I replayed the events of the night over and over in my head. The laughter, the glances, the way Emily and Matt had looked at each other. It had all been there all along, and I had been too blind to see it. I didn't know what the future held. I didn't know if I could ever forgive Emily. I didn't know if I could ever look Matt in the eye again. But one thing was certain, my life had changed forever, and there was no going back. The walk felt endless. I wasn't sure if I was trying to outrun the pain, or if I was hoping the cold night air would clear my mind. Neither worked. The streets were quiet, the kind of silence that usually brought peace, but now it felt suffocating. I didn't know where I was going, or even what I was doing out there. It felt like I was in some kind of numb, disassociated state, frozen in a moment of betrayal I couldn't escape. I must have walked for over an hour, but I wasn't counting the minutes. I passed familiar landmarks, the grocery store we always went to, the park where Emily and I had spent lazy Sunday afternoons, but nothing looked the same. Everything was warped. I couldn't escape the image of her, of Matt, in my head. Their faces were burned into my brain, playing on a loop that I couldn't turn off. I kept thinking about the way Emily had looked at me in the room, her eyes filled with guilt and panic. And Matt, standing there with that look of shame. I didn't know what hurt more, the fact that my wife and brother had betrayed me, or the realization that they had been so comfortable with their secret that they hadn't even bothered to hide it from me, that they hadn't cared enough about me to stop. I wasn't sure what was worse, being deceived or realizing that I'd been so blind, so trusting. Maybe I had seen the signs but didn't want to acknowledge them. Or maybe, deep down, I just didn't want to believe that the two people I loved most in the world could do something like this. Eventually, I found myself in front of a bar, one of those dimly lit places I used to go to with Matt and some old friends from college. I had never been much of a drinker, but tonight I needed something to numb the pain. The door creaked open, and I stepped inside, the warmth hitting me like a wave. It was quiet, just a couple of people at the bar. I sat at the end, ordering a whiskey, hoping it would calm the storm inside my head. The bartender looked at me for a moment, probably wondering why I looked so damn broken on what should have been my night to enjoy. The drink didn't help much, but it was something to hold on to. I watched the ice melt in my glass, my thoughts racing. I had to face Emily eventually. I couldn't just run away from this, no matter how much I wanted to. But I couldn't go back home yet. Not with her there. Not after everything that had happened. I wondered if I'd ever be able to trust her again, or if I could ever look at Matt the same way. Always been my brother, my best friend, the one person who had always been there for me. But now I wasn't sure who he was anymore. The man who shared my blood, the man I thought I knew, had betrayed me in the worst possible way. The drink was empty, and I didn't order another. I wasn't sure what I wanted anymore. Maybe I needed answers from Emily. Maybe I needed to confront Matt, face to face, and ask him how long he had been lying to me. But I wasn't ready for that. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I paid the bartender and left, stepping back into the cold night. The city felt even more distant now. I had a place to go, a place I should be able to go back to, but the thought of returning to that house, that place that had once felt like home, made my stomach twist. As I walked back, I couldn't stop thinking about the conversation I'd had with Emily. Her apology had been hollow, filled with empty words. She seemed genuinely sorry, but I wasn't sure if I believed it. Could she truly regret it? Could Matt? Or were they just sorry they'd been caught? Was there any real remorse? Or was it just guilt because everything had been exposed? When I finally got back to the house, I could see the light on in the living room through the window. I took a deep breath, tried to steady my shaking hands. I stood there for a moment, not sure if I should go in. The door was unlocked. I could hear the faint sounds of the party still going on downstairs, though it was clear that some people had started to leave. I opened the door quietly and stepped inside, my heart pounding in my chest. I was hoping for a moment of peace, maybe even a way out. But the reality hit me again. I walked into the living room to see Emily sitting on the couch, her face tear-streaked, looking like she had been waiting for me. "I didn't know where you went," she said softly, her voice trembling. I thought we could talk. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, please." I didn't know how to respond. The words stuck in my throat, but I knew I couldn't keep running away from this. I had to face it. I had to face her. "I can't keep doing this, Emily," I said quietly, my voice filled with a mix of hurt and anger. "I don't even know who you are anymore. I don't know who he is anymore. My brother. You slept with him. How am I supposed to look at either of you the same way? She stood up, her hands shaking as she reached for me. Please don't leave. I don't know what to say. I'm so sorry. I never meant for it to go this far. I love you, but I couldn't believe it. Not anymore. The words were meaningless now. The trust that had once been the foundation of our relationship was gone, and there was no way to rebuild it. I don't know if I can forgive you, I said, the words feeling like a weight I couldn't carry. I don't know if I can ever look at you the same way. And I don't know if I can ever trust Matt again. You both betrayed me. You broke me. She sobbed harder, falling to her knees in front of me. Please don't say that. Please. I love you. I don't know if I can love you after this, I whispered, turning and walking toward the door. I couldn't stay. I couldn't breathe in that house anymore, knowing what had happened. I couldn't live in that lie. I left that night. I didn't know where I was going, but I couldn't stay in that place any longer. I needed time. Time to think. Time to grieve. Time to figure out how to move on. The hardest part was knowing that the people I had trusted the most had destroyed everything. My wife. My brother. I didn't know if I'd ever be able to trust anyone again. The next few days were a blur. I don't remember much about the first 48 hours after I walked out of that house. It felt like my mind was in a constant state of fog. Everything moving too fast but too slow at the same time. I went to a few different places, friends' houses, random cafes, anywhere that wasn't home. I didn't want to go back. I didn't want to face Emily or Matt, let alone deal with the mess they had made of my life. But life doesn't stop just because you're drowning in pain. The world keeps turning, people keep living their lives, and you're left to pick up the pieces of your shattered existence. I found it out quickly. I stayed with a friend, Jason, for a couple of nights. He was a good guy, a friend I trusted, but even being around him didn't offer much comfort. I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. I kept replaying the moment when I saw Emily and Matt together, the shock and the betrayal, over and over again in my head. I kept wondering if I missed the signs, if I should have seen this coming. I spent the next few days wrestling with my emotions. Part of me wanted to walk away from it all. Forget about Emily. Forget about Matt. Just move on and never look back. But there was another part of me that wanted answers, that needed to understand why this had happened. Why Emily had done this. Why Matt had done this. I couldn't get the image of them together out of my head, but I also couldn't escape the unanswered questions that kept nagging at me. Eventually, I decided I couldn't run anymore. I had to face them. It wasn't going to be easy, but I couldn't keep avoiding it. I had to confront the people who had destroyed my world. I called Emily first. She answered on the second ring, her voice trembling as soon as she heard my voice. I'm so sorry, she said, the words coming out in a rush. Please, can we talk? Please come back home. I need you to understand that this wasn't about you. I swear to God it wasn't. I didn't know what to say. How could she say it wasn't about me? It was completely about me. It was about everything we'd built, everything I had trusted, and everything that had just been torn apart. I don't know if I can come back, Emily, I said, my voice shaking. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. I don't know if I can forgive you. She didn't say anything for a moment, and then she whispered, I love you. I love you so much. I'll do whatever it takes to make it right. Please come back. Let's talk. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I need to see you both. I need to talk to you and Matt. There was a long pause before she finally spoke. Okay, we'll meet. Just, please don't hate me. I ended the call and stared at my phone for a few moments. What the hell was I doing? I wanted to just walk away and never look back, but I also knew that wasn't the answer. I needed to understand why this had happened. I needed closure, even if it meant facing the hardest conversation in my life. I drove back to the house later that afternoon. The drive felt surreal. Everything I saw outside the window seemed muted, like I was in a fog. The neighborhood was the same. The street was the same. But everything had changed. I pulled into the driveway and sat in the car for a moment, taking a deep breath. I didn't know what I was walking into. I didn't know how this would end, but I had to face them for better or worse. I couldn't live in this limbo anymore. I walked up to the front door and knocked. Emily opened it almost immediately, her face swollen from crying, her eyes red. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Come in, she said softly, stepping aside. I hesitated for a moment before walking through the door. The familiar smell of our house hit me, but it didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a place that had been invaded, tainted by the betrayal that had taken place within these walls. Matt was sitting on the couch, his head down, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. He didn't look up when I entered. I could feel the tension in the room, the heavy silence that hung between us. It was suffocating. I looked at Emily, then at Matt, and took a seat on the other side of the room. I don't know what to say to either of you. I began, my voice trembling. How could you do this? How could you both betray me like this? Emily looked down, unable to meet my eyes. I never meant to hurt you. I swear I didn't. It just happened. And I know that's not an excuse, but it's the truth. You really think that's enough? I asked, my voice rising with frustration. You think I'm just supposed to believe that? You think it just happened, makes this all okay? You think sorry is enough to fix this? Matt finally looked up at me. His face was pale, and his eyes were filled with guilt. I don't know what to say, man. I'm so sorry. I fucked up. I never meant for any of this to happen. I never meant to hurt you. The words felt empty. How could they both be so sorry when they had destroyed everything? It wasn't just a mistake. It wasn't just a simple misstep. This was a betrayal that went beyond words. I don't know what I'm supposed to do now, I said quietly, my voice breaking. How am I supposed to move on from this? How do I even look at either of you the same way again? Emily started to speak, but I held up my hand, stopping her. I can't hear it right now, I said, shaking my head. I don't know what to say, but I need space. I need time to think. I stood up, not waiting for their response. I couldn't sit there anymore. I couldn't listen to their apologies, couldn't hear any more excuses. I needed to leave. Goodbye, Emily. Goodbye, Matt, I said, my voice cold before walking out the door. As I left, I felt like I was walking into an uncertain future. There was no turning back. No matter what happened, things would never be the same. I didn't know where I would go from here, or how I would move forward, but I knew I couldn't stay in that house any longer. I had been betrayed by the two people I trusted most in the world. And while part of me wanted to shut it all out and forget, I knew that wasn't possible. I had to face this. I had to rebuild my life from the ground up, even if it meant walking away from everything I had ever known. And I had no idea where to begin. I didn't know where I was going after I left the house. I just knew I couldn't stay there, not with the ghosts of Emily and Matt's betrayal haunting every corner. I walked aimlessly down the street, my footsteps echoing in the silence of the night. The cold air bit at my skin, but it didn't matter. Nothing mattered. I'd spent years of my life building something with Emily, with Matt. I had trusted them, loved them both. But in a few moments, everything had crumbled. I wasn't just dealing with the pain of betrayal. I was grieving the loss of the future I thought we were going to have. Everything I believed to be true was now just a lie. I found myself at the park. It was late, and the place was deserted, the swings creaking in the wind. I sat on one of the benches, burying my head in my hands. The world around me was still, too still, like it was waiting for me to figure it out. But I didn't have any answers. I didn't know what to do next. I took out my phone and stared at the screen. There were 100 messages, mostly from friends asking if I was okay. Some of them had seen me leave earlier, and I could only imagine what kind of rumors were already spreading. I didn't want to respond. I didn't want to talk to anyone, not yet. But there was one message I couldn't ignore. It was from Matt. I'm so sorry. Please know that I never wanted this. I regret it all. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I had to tell you, I'm sorry. I'll be here when you're ready to talk. I stared at the message for what felt like an eternity, my finger hovering over the reply button. I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready to talk to him, to hear his excuses or his regrets. The betrayal was still too fresh, too painful. I put the phone back in my pocket, my head spinning. How had things gotten so messed up? How had I ended up here, sitting alone in the dark, questioning everything? I couldn't stop thinking about Emily's face, the tears, the desperation in her voice. But more than that, I couldn't stop thinking about Matt. The betrayal wasn't just from Emily, it was from him too. He was my brother, the person I had trusted the most, the person I had confided in, shared my deepest thoughts with. And now, he was a stranger to me. The anger was building up again, a fire in my chest that I couldn't control. I stood up abruptly, pacing back and forth. What was I supposed to do? Could I even talk to him? Could I ever trust him again? Eventually, I found myself standing in front of Emily's house again. I hadn't planned to come back, but there I was. My mind was a mess, and the more I tried to think, the more I felt like I was losing control. I rang the doorbell, and it took a few moments before she answered. Her face was pale, her eyes red from crying. But when she saw me standing there, she didn't say a word. She just stepped back, silently inviting me in. I walked into the house, the silence between us thick, suffocating. I could feel the tension in the air, the weight of everything that had happened. There were no more parties, no more laughter, just a quiet, oppressive sense of loss. I didn't know if you'd come back, Emily said, her voice barely a whisper. I don't know what I'm doing, I admitted. I don't know what to say. I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive you. Her eyes filled with tears again, and she stepped closer to me. I never meant for it to happen, but I can't take it back. I love you. I want to fix this. Please, give me a chance. I wanted to scream, to tell her it was too late. But I didn't. I just stood there, frozen, caught between the pain of betrayal and the lingering remnants of love I still had for her. You've broken everything, Emily, I said quietly. I don't know if I can fix it. I don't know if I want to. I know I've hurt you, she said, her voice shaking. But I swear I'll do anything. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you, if you'll let me. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that we could go back to the way things were, that we could heal from this. But I didn't know if it was possible. Could trust ever be rebuilt after something like this? I walked to the window, looking outside, but my mind was elsewhere. I couldn't stop thinking about Matt. He hadn't come home that night, and I hadn't heard from him since his message. Was he feeling the same guilt? Was he regretting everything? Or was he still justifying his actions, thinking that everything was fine? I can't stay here tonight, I said, breaking silence. I need time. I need space to think. Emily nodded, wiping her tears. Understand. Just, please don't give up on us completely. Please. I didn't answer. I didn't know if I could promise her anything. As I turned to leave, she called out, Please don't leave me. Please don't leave us. I closed the door behind me, the weight of her words still hanging in the air. But I couldn't stay. I had to get away, even if just for a little while. I walked down the street again, but this time I wasn't lost in the fog of confusion. I had a destination in mind. I was going to find Matt. I needed to hear it from him. I needed him to look me in the eye and tell me why. Why he'd done this. Why he'd thrown everything away, too. I wasn't sure what would happen next. But I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't going to be able to move forward until I had answers. I drove to Matt's place, each mile feeling like an eternity. The streets blurred as I focused on nothing but the knot of anger and confusion in my chest. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles were white, but I didn't care. I had to do this. I had to find out why my brother had done this to me, why he had betrayed me in the worst possible way. I hadn't spoken to Matt since that night, since I had walked out of the house, leaving both him and Emily behind in the wake of their actions. The silence between us was deafening, and the weight of his betrayal was suffocating. His apartment wasn't far from the house Emily and I shared. I parked the car outside and sat there for a moment, just staring at the building. I felt like I was about to face something I couldn't undo, but I had no other choice. I couldn't move on without confronting him, without hearing the truth from his own lips. I walked up the stairs and knocked on his door. The sound of my knuckles tapping against the wood seemed louder than it should have been in the quiet hallway. There was no answer at first. I knocked again, more forcefully this time, and heard movement on the other side. The door opened slowly, and Matt stood there, looking almost as broken as I felt. He was disheveled, his face pale, and his eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep or maybe from too many drinks. The shame on his face was palpable, and for a moment, neither of us said anything. I stepped into his apartment, the silence between us thick and uncomfortable. I didn't think you'd come, Matt said quietly, his voice strained. Why did you do it, Matt? I asked, my voice low, filled with anger, hurt, and confusion. Why her? Why my wife? Why now? Matt looked away, and for a moment, I thought he might break down. But then he looked at me, his face contorted with regret. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you. It's the one thing I can't explain. It wasn't supposed to happen. Wasn't supposed to happen. I repeated, my voice rising. That's your excuse? You think that makes it better? You think you could just act like it was some kind of accident? Matt's shoulders slumped, and I could see the guilt written all over him. He took a deep breath, rubbing his face with both hands. I never meant for it to go this far. It started as something stupid. I don't even know how it happened, but I was so caught up in the moment, I didn't think about what it would do to you. To us. I couldn't listen to him anymore. The words felt like they were just a way to deflect the blame. He was apologizing, but there was no real accountability, no acknowledgement of how deeply he had hurt me. You're my brother, Matt, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I've trusted you more than anyone in the world. And you did this. You crossed a line I never thought you would. I know, he whispered, his voice breaking. I can't change what I did, and I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't even expect you to ever trust me again. But I swear to you, I never wanted to hurt you. I was selfish. I thought it was just some kind of escape from my own messed up life, but it turned into something I can't fix. I stood there, staring at him, feeling the weight of his words sink in. This wasn't just a betrayal of my wife. It was a betrayal of me. My own flesh and blood had let me down in a way that I couldn't even begin to understand. Why didn't you stop? I asked, my voice shaking. If you knew it was wrong, why didn't you stop? Matt looked at the ground, unable to meet my gaze. I don't know, man. I just got caught up in it. And by the time I realized what I had done, it was too late. The damage was already done. The silence between us felt like it lasted forever. I couldn't even look at him without feeling disgusted. How could he not see how deeply this had hurt me? How could he not understand that this wasn't just a mistake? It was a choice, one that he had made knowing exactly what he was doing. I don't know if I'll ever forgive you, I said quietly, my voice barely audible. I don't know if I'll ever trust you again. I understand, he said, his voice full of sorrow. I don't expect you to. I've ruined everything. I've ruined you. I felt a lump in my throat, but I didn't want to cry. I didn't want to show him that I was still hurt, still broken. I didn't want to give him the satisfaction of seeing me vulnerable. But the truth was, I was torn. I wanted to hate him. I wanted to turn my back on him forever and never speak to him again. But part of me still wanted to believe that he was the same guy I had grown up with, the same guy who had been my best friend, the one who had my back through thick and thin. But I didn't know how to get that back. I didn't know if I could ever look at him the same way again. I turned away, walking toward the door, but before I left, I spoke one last time. I don't know what happens from here, Matt. I don't know if there's any way forward for us. But I need time. I need space to figure out what I'm going to do. Matt didn't try to stop me. He didn't beg me to stay. He just stood there, looking as lost as I felt. As I walked out of his apartment, I felt the weight of everything that had happened crashing down on me. I had faced him. I had heard his apology, but it didn't make the pain go away. It didn't fix anything. I was still torn between anger and hurt, between the desire to move on and the need for closure. I didn't know what was next for me, or what the future held for my relationship with Emily, or with Matt. All I knew was that I couldn't stay in this broken place forever. I needed to find a way to heal, but I had no idea where to start. After leaving Matt's apartment, I felt a strange emptiness settle over me. Talking to him hadn't given me the clarity I needed. I thought maybe confronting him would help me find some sense of closure, but it only made everything feel more complicated. I had gotten some answers, but they didn't bring me peace. It didn't fix anything. If anything, it just deepened the wound. I spent the next few days avoiding everyone. Friends kept reaching out, checking on me, but I wasn't ready to talk to any of them. They couldn't understand. Nobody could. How could they? No one had ever been in my shoes, betrayed by the two people I trusted most in the world. I felt alone, completely and utterly alone. I tried to bury myself in work to distract myself. I threw myself into projects, met deadlines, did whatever I could to keep my mind from wandering back to the mess of my personal life. But every quiet moment, every free second, my thoughts would inevitably return to Emily and Matt, to the betrayal, to the pieces of my life that were now scattered, irreparable. One night, about a week after I confronted Matt, I was sitting on the couch, staring at my phone. I had received another message from Emily. This time, I could feel the weight of it in my chest before I even opened it. I miss you. I'm sorry. Please, I know I don't deserve it, but I just need you to know I love you. I'll wait for you, no matter how long it takes. I'm so sorry for everything. Please talk to me. I stared at the screen for a long time, my finger hovering over the reply button. I didn't want to give in. I didn't want to let her think that everything would be okay if she just apologized. But a part of me, the part that still loved her, wanted to believe her. Wanted to believe that we could somehow fix this. But another part of me, the angry, broken part, knew that I couldn't just forgive her. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I put my phone down, leaving her message unanswered. I couldn't do it. I couldn't open that door again. Not until I was ready to face the truth of what had happened. But then, something unexpected happened. Later that evening, I received a call from my mother. I hadn't spoken to her in a while. She had been worried about me, of course, but I hadn't wanted to burden her with my problems. When I saw her name on the caller ID, I hesitated for a moment, then picked up. "Hey, Mom," I said, trying to sound normal, though my voice betrayed me. "Hi, sweetie. How are you? I haven't heard from you in a while," she said, her voice soft but full of concern. I didn't want to get into everything, but I could hear the worry in her tone. "I'm fine, Mom. Just trying to figure things out." "I know something's been off," she said, her voice dropping lower. "Your dad and I have been talking, and we're worried about you. I know it's hard, but don't shut us out. You can always talk to me." I swallowed hard. "It's complicated, Mom. You wouldn't understand." "Try me," she replied, her voice steady but kind. "What happened? Is it about Emily?" I sighed, rubbing my forehead as I tried to figure out how to explain it. "Yeah, it's about Emily. And Matt. It's a mess." I heard her take a deep breath, and I could almost feel her bracing herself. "What do you mean, sweetie? What happened?" I didn't want to say it out loud. I didn't want to hear myself speak the words, but somehow I did. Mom, Emily, she cheated on me. With Matt, my brother. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I could tell she was processing the words, trying to understand what I was saying. Are you sure? She asked, her voice a little shaky. Is there any chance this is a mistake? I saw them, Mom. I said, my voice breaking. I caught them. It's real. It's happening. I could hear the anguish in her voice as she tried to comfort me. Oh, sweetie, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I can't even imagine what you're going through right now. It's just, I don't know what to do, Mom. I don't know if I can forgive either of them. I don't even know if I can look at Matt the same way again. I don't know what to say, baby. I wish I could make it better. But I know you need time. Just don't make any decisions in anger. Take time to think it through. I'm trying, I said quietly. But every time I think I have a grip on it, everything just falls apart again. I don't know what's next. Listen to me, she said, her tone firm but loving. Whatever you decide, we'll be here for you. We love you, and we want you to be happy. You don't have to figure it out overnight. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Thanks, Mom. I appreciate it. After I hung up with her, I sat there in the quiet, feeling the weight of her words settle on my chest. She was right. I didn't have to figure it out right away. I didn't have to make any decisions about Emily or Matt right now. But that didn't mean I could avoid it forever. I spent the rest of the evening in a daze, unable to shake the feeling of betrayal that seemed to follow me everywhere I went. I knew I couldn't continue living like this, stuck between anger and sorrow, between the desire to heal and the need to keep everyone at arm's length. I had to make a choice. But how? How do you choose between the people who destroyed you? How do you rebuild when everything you've known is broken? I didn't know. I still didn't know. But one thing was certain. I couldn't keep living in this limbo forever. I needed to take control. I needed to find a way to move forward. And somehow, some way, I would. The days that followed felt like a haze. I went through the motions of my normal life. Waking up, going to work, dealing with the things I had to, but none of it seemed real. I was numb, stuck in this emotional limbo, unable to move forward, yet unable to completely retreat from everything that had happened. I kept hearing my mom's voice in my head, telling me not to make decisions in anger, to take my time and figure it out. But that was the problem, wasn't it? The longer I took, the more I felt like I was suffocating in this uncertainty. It wasn't just the betrayal I was dealing with. It was the complete unraveling of everything I thought I knew about my life. The worst part was the silence. The absence of Emily and Matt. Neither of them had contacted me since the day I walked out of their lives. I knew they were both waiting for me to reach out, but I didn't know if I could. Every time I thought about them, I felt a knot in my stomach, and every time I thought about confronting either of them again, the idea seemed like too much. I tried to go back to normal, back to work, back to living life as if nothing had happened, but that wasn't an option. Every day felt like I was walking around with a massive weight on my shoulders, unable to shake the memory of their faces, unable to forget the depth of their betrayal. One afternoon, almost a week after the conversation with my mom, I was sitting at my desk, scrolling through emails when I saw the name Emily flash on my phone. My heart skipped a beat. For a split second, I thought about ignoring it, but some deep, guttural need to face this, made me answer. Hey, I said, my voice flat, unsure of what to expect. Hi, she said, her voice shaky, and I could tell she had been crying. I've been waiting for you to call. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep waiting, hoping you'll come back. I need to talk to you. I need to fix this. I clenched my fists on the desk. I don't even know where to start, Emily, I said, my voice low, but thick with emotion. I don't know if I want to fix this. It was a long silence. I could hear her take a shaky breath. I know I've hurt you more than I could ever explain. But I swear I never meant for this to happen. It was a mistake. A huge, unforgivable mistake. But I love you. I love you so much, and I will spend my whole life making it up to you if you'll let me. I felt my chest tighten at her words, but I also felt a strange sense of relief. Hearing her say that, hearing her admit her guilt, it was like a small step toward feeling something real again. But I couldn't let my guard down. Not yet. I don't know if I can believe you, I said, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. You broke me, Emily, and I don't know if I'll ever get over that. I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust you again. You and Matt. What you did to me. It's something I can't just forget. I know, and I don't expect you to forget. I know I don't deserve another chance, but I can't just walk away from you. I can't live with myself knowing that I destroyed everything between us. Please, can we just talk? Can we meet somewhere? I can't fix this over the phone. I ran a hand through my hair, looking out the window at the gray sky. Every fiber of my being wanted to run, to avoid facing her, to keep my distance. But something in her voice, something in the desperation, pulled at me. Fine, I said after a moment. We can talk, but I don't know what will happen after that. I don't know if I can forgive you, Emily. I don't know if we can move forward from this. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you for giving me this chance. I hung up the phone and sat there for a long time, trying to process what had just happened. I had agreed to meet her. I had agreed to hear her out. But part of me felt like I was just setting myself up for more heartbreak. Could I really sit across from her and listen to her apologize? Could I really hear her try to explain this mess away? But I had to know. I had to hear her side of it, even if it was the hardest thing I'd ever done. Later that evening, I met Emily at a small cafe downtown. It was one of those places we used to go to when we first started dating, back when everything seemed so simple, so easy. The familiarity of it made my heart ache. She was already sitting at a table in the corner, her eyes red and puffy, her hands shaking as she stirred her coffee. She looked up when I approached, and for a moment, it felt like nothing had changed. Like I was just walking in to meet her after a long day, as if everything were normal. But it wasn't. Nothing was normal anymore. I sat down across from her, and the silence between us felt even heavier than it had over the phone. I don't even know where to begin, she said, her voice soft, almost pleading. I've ruined everything, and I don't know how to make it right. I know I've betrayed you. I know I've hurt you more than anyone ever should, but I need you to know it wasn't about you. It was never about you. I clenched my jaw, trying to control the surge of emotions rising in me. Then what was it about? I asked, my voice hoarse. What made you betray everything we had? What made you betray me with my own brother? She lowered her gaze, her shoulders shaking. It wasn't planned. It wasn't something I ever thought would happen. But Matt and I were in a bad place. We both were. And when I started confiding in him, when we started talking about our problems, something changed. I was vulnerable, and he was there. And I don't know how it happened, but I never meant for it to go this far. How long has this been going on? I asked, my heart pounding. She hesitated, her lips trembling. A few months, she admitted, barely above a whisper. It started after things had changed between us, after we started drifting apart. But I swear to you, it wasn't something I wanted. It wasn't something I ever planned. The truth hit me like a punch to the gut. A few months? This hadn't been a one-time mistake. This had been going on for months, behind my back, while I thought everything was fine. I stood up suddenly, my hands trembling. I can't do this, I said, my voice thick with emotion. I can't keep sitting here, listening to you try to explain this. It's too much. Both of you've shattered everything. I don't know how to fix this. I turned to walk away, but Emily reached out and grabbed my arm. Please don't go. Don't leave me like this, she begged, her voice breaking. I love you. I need you. I shook my head, pulling away from her grip. I don't know what love means anymore, Emily, I said, my voice cracking. Not after what you did. And with that, I walked out, leaving her behind in the cafe, standing there, surrounded by the wreckage of our broken relationship. The cold air hit me like a wave as I stepped out of the cafe, my mind a whirlwind of emotions. I couldn't stop replaying Emily's words in my head. It wasn't about you. It wasn't something I wanted. But that didn't change the fact that it had happened. It didn't change the reality that the people I trusted most had lied to me, betrayed me in ways I couldn't even begin to understand. I walked down the street, barely noticing where I was going, my mind consumed by the conversation. Emily's tears, her desperate apologies, they all felt hollow now. It didn't matter how much she cried, how many times she said she loved me. She had crossed a line that couldn't be erased. And so had Matt. The betrayal wasn't just from her. It was from both of them. I reached my car and sat in the driver's seat, staring out the windshield, trying to clear my thoughts. I needed to figure this out. I needed to make a decision about what came next. But every time I tried to imagine my life without them in it, without Emily, without Matt, my heart ached. They were both a part of me, a part of the life I thought I knew. But now that life felt like a lie. I pulled out my phone and stared at the screen. There were messages from my friends, still checking in, asking if I was okay. I didn't know how to respond. How could I tell them the truth without making everything worse? How could I explain that my entire world had just imploded? The next few days passed in a blur. I went through the motions of work, trying to keep up with everything, but it was impossible to focus. My mind kept drifting back to the night of my birthday, to the way I had found them, Emily and Matt, together. I couldn't stop thinking about the look on Matt's face when he saw me standing there, the look of guilt and fear. What happened to us? What happened to that bond we shared? How could he betray me like that? And how could Emily have crossed that line with him? The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. I wanted answers. I wanted to understand why they did it, what drove them to throw everything away. But no matter how much I asked myself those questions, there were no easy answers. No reason that could make it okay. After a few days of silence, I decided I had to face Matt again. I couldn't avoid him forever. I couldn't let this gnaw at me without confronting it head on. I called him. He answered after a few rings, and the sound of his voice brought a rush of emotions I wasn't ready for. "Hey," Matt said, his voice hoarse, as if he hadn't been sleeping well. "Hey," I replied, my throat tight. "We need to talk." There was a long pause. I could hear the hesitation in his voice. "Yeah, I know. I've been waiting for you to call." I don't know what to say. I didn't either, but I had to say something. I needed to get it all out, even if it meant breaking down in front of him. "I don't understand, Matt," I said, the words finally escaping my lips. "How could you do this to me? You're my brother. You're supposed to have my back. And Emily, how could you do this to us?" "To me?" Matt sighed deeply, and I could hear the regret in his voice. "I don't know, man. I don't know what happened. I was messed up. I was going through my own stuff, and I guess I was just looking for an escape. It never should have gone this far. And I hate myself for it. I hate that I've hurt you. But I can't change it. I wish I could, but I can't." I gripped the phone tightly, trying to suppress the anger building inside me. "You're my brother, Matt," I repeated, my voice shaking. "You were supposed to be the one person I could trust. And now, I don't even know who you are anymore." "I know," he said quietly. "I've lost everything. I've lost your trust. I've lost your respect. And I don't expect you to forgive me. But I'm sorry. I wish I could take it all back, but I can't. I'm so sorry." I stayed silent, trying to hold back the flood of emotions threatening to spill over. His apology didn't fix anything. It didn't erase the pain. It didn't change the fact that the person I had trusted most had betrayed me. "You've destroyed everything, Matt," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive you. And I don't know if we'll ever be able to fix this. But I need time. I need space to figure out what I'm supposed to do with all this." "I understand," Matt said softly. "Take all the time you need. I'll be here whenever you're ready to talk. But I'm not going anywhere, and I'll keep waiting for you to come back. If you can ever forgive me." I hung up the phone without saying goodbye. The weight of the conversation lingered in the air like smoke that wouldn't dissipate. I didn't know what I wanted from Matt, but I couldn't keep pretending like everything was fine. It wasn't. The next few days were spent in isolation. I needed to process everything. What had happened, what I wanted, what the future might look like without Emily and Matt in my life. Could I ever forgive them? Could I rebuild my life from the pieces they had broken? One evening, I went for a long walk. I didn't know where I was going or what I hoped to find, but I needed to clear my mind. The weather was chilly, and the streets were quiet, save for the distant hum of traffic. As I walked, I thought about everything: my marriage, my brother, the years we had spent building a life together. And now it was all gone. I realized in that moment that I wasn't ready to forgive. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The pain was still too raw, too fresh. And I needed to heal. I needed to find out who I was outside of this broken relationship. I didn't have the answers yet, but I knew I couldn't stay in the past. I couldn't keep looking back at what had been destroyed. I had to move forward, even if that meant leaving behind people I had once loved. And so I walked. And as I walked, I promised myself that I would figure it out, step by painful step. I would rebuild. I would find my way back to peace. But for now, all I could do was keep moving forward. The next few weeks felt like a slow-motion blur. I kept moving through my days in a haze of confusion, anger, and pain. I continued going to work, meeting friends occasionally, trying to distract myself, but nothing felt right. Every day, I woke up to the same hollow emptiness, the same gnawing ache in my chest. There were moments when I thought I could move on, when I convinced myself that I was healing, but then the memories would come rushing back, the sound of their laughter, the image of Emily and Matt together, and it would all come crashing down again. I avoided both of them. Matt kept texting, sending me messages that were nothing but apologies. "I know I fucked up, but I love you. I'm sorry. It didn't make anything better." I had stopped responding after a while. I couldn't even look at his messages without feeling sick. Emily, on the other hand, was more persistent. She called, she texted, but every time I saw her name pop up on my phone, a wave of anger and sadness would wash over me. I wanted to forgive her. I wanted to believe her when she said she loved me, but I couldn't shake the image of her and Matt, my own brother, together. I couldn't forget the betrayal. I finally decided to meet with Emily after weeks of silence. I knew I couldn't keep avoiding her. I needed closure. I needed to hear her side of it, even if it hurt. Maybe it was the first step toward healing, or maybe it was just another attempt to understand something that could never be understood. But I had to do it. We met at a quiet park, a place we used to go when things were good. When we first started dating, we would walk along the path, talking about our future. The irony wasn't lost on me. Now, we were here to talk about a future that had been destroyed. Emily was waiting for me on a bench, her hands nervously twisting in her lap. She looked as beautiful as ever, but there was something in her eyes, something broken, something that reflected the same pain I was feeling. When I sat down next to her, she didn't say anything at first. We both just sat in silence, the weight of everything that had happened hanging between us. "I'm sorry," she said finally, her voice breaking. "I know that doesn't make it better. I know I don't deserve to be forgiven. But I need you to know that I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted to betray you." I didn't respond at first. I couldn't. The words felt stuck in my throat. Everything she said was true, but it didn't change the reality of what had happened. She had betrayed me. She had torn apart everything we had built, and I wasn't sure if I could ever get over that. "You don't understand, Emily," I said after a long pause, my voice strained. "I trusted you. You were my wife. You were supposed to be the one person I could count on. And you chose him, my own brother." She flinched, as if my words were a physical blow. "I know," she whispered. "I can't take back what happened. I can't undo it, and I would give anything to go back and fix it. But I can't. All I can do is ask for your forgiveness, even though I don't expect it. I love you, and I'll always love you." I felt my chest tighten. I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe that everything could go back to the way it was, but I couldn't. I didn't know if I could ever trust her again. "I don't know if I can forgive you, Emily," I said quietly, looking at the ground. "I don't know if I can forget what you did, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to look at you the same way again. You've broken me." She reached for my hand, but I pulled it back before she could touch me. "Please," she begged, her voice trembling. "Please just give me a chance. I'll do anything. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you if you'll just give me a chance." I shook my head. I couldn't. I couldn't go back to that life. I couldn't pretend like everything was fine. Too much had happened, and the trust had been shattered in a way that could never be repaired. "I don't know if I can ever give you that chance," I said softly. "But I need time, Emily. I need time to figure out who I am without you, without Matt. I need to heal, and I don't think I can do that with you in my life right now." The tears streamed down her face, but I couldn't comfort her. I couldn't fix this. I wasn't sure if anything could. "I understand," she said, her voice breaking. "I'll give you the space you need. But please know that I will always love you, and I will always be here if you want to talk. I'll never stop loving you, even if you can't forgive me." I stood up, unable to look at her anymore. The pain was too much. The guilt, the anger, the hurt, it was overwhelming. I had to walk away. "I don't know what the future holds for us, Emily," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "But it's not now. I can't be with you anymore." I turned and walked away, not looking back. I didn't want to see the look on her face. I didn't want to see the heartbreak I had caused. But I had to do this for me. I had to move forward, even if it meant leaving her behind. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life. It wasn't easy. I couldn't just wake up one day and pretend everything was fine. But I knew I couldn't stay stuck in the past forever. I started spending more time with my friends, reconnecting with the people who had always been there for me. I took up hobbies I had put on the back burner for too long. I started to live for myself again. But there was a part of me that would always carry the scars of what had happened. A part of me that would always be changed by the betrayal. And I knew, deep down, that it would take time to fully heal. But I also knew that I was stronger than I had been before. As for Emily and Matt, I didn't know what the future held for them. I didn't know if I would ever forgive them. But I knew that, for now, I had to move forward on my own. It was the only way I could truly begin to heal. And so, with each passing day, I let go a little more. I started to find peace again, not by forgetting what had happened, but by accepting that it had happened and that I couldn't change it. I couldn't undo the past, but I could control my future. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a glimmer of hope.